Right, so everyone, here's part two of criminal law. Um, we generally have six types of crimes. You can see them. This chart is straight from your book. We're not going to talk about all of them in here because some of them are rare, right? Um, so most of you have probably heard of a felony. We measure this crime by the length of punishment associated with it. So anything that is going to get you a year in prison, right? 'Cause jail for 364 days, anything higher than that is prison. That's going to be considered a felony. And we have different degrees of felonies, and I'll let your text kind of go through that with you. And each state is going to be a little bit different. So these are fairly common, right? We have infractions. Um, you might have gotten a jaywalking ticket, or sometimes in some instances, traffic things are considered infractions. So these are like very low level, spitting on the sidewalk types of crime. They're not going to get you jail time, prison time. It's most likely going to be a fine. We kind of jump all the way up to treason here, right? Right. I think I'm going down this chart the wrong way now that no, I don't really see a way that this is organized. So we'll just go down. Then we have treason, and you've heard this word tossed around a lot actually over the last couple years. And here's the actual definition. So we have a U.S. citizen. That's your first bar you have to meet to be convicted of treason. Actions to help a foreign government overthrow, make war against, or seriously injure the United States. Also, the attempt to overthrow the government of the society of which one is a member. So, there was a big call for investigations about treason with what happened on January 6th. We'll see where that goes. Um, but here's the actual definition. We have inchoate offenses. These are, a step towards a crime. So you plan to rob the bank, you get your ski mask, you get your gun, you get your getaway car, and you get pulled out, you hit a cop car on the way there. Terrible luck, right? You could technically be charged with an inchoate offense. You were on your way. You had a plan. You were ready to rob that bank. This isn't something we use very often. Here's going to be our biggest category. We have misdemeanors. These are your petty theft. These are your drug possessions for the most part, unless you're, selling. So this is punishable by incarceration. We can put you in jail, but it's not going to be for a year. It's going to be 30 days, 90 days, 6 months, 364 days. That's a common sentence. Whatever is under a year. And then we have espionage. Again, this isn't something that, thankfully happens that much, but here's the actual definition of it. So we are going to focus here on misdemeanors and felonies. They are by far our most common types of crime that we deal with. Let's see if I can get this there we go. All right. So we have all of our categories of the crime. Like I said, we're going to focus on felonies and misdemeanors. But what exactly makes up the crime? Like what is it? What are the components of a crime? So we're going to look at some general things that make up a crime. So to have the features of a crime, you must have three things. The first is actus reus. So this is a voluntary guilty act. Nobody's holding a gun to my head to make me do whatever the act is. I'm just going to choose to do it. Now, there are other things that you could do but regarding this. So we have our four components down here, four like ways you can meet this feature of a crime. It can be an act. I can rob that liquor store. It can be an omission. So sometimes when you have like neglect charges, child neglect, elder neglect, parents aren't seeking medical attention for a child. They're not feeding a child. That's that omission, that means you're not doing it, of an act is a crime. Like you don't have a responsibility or a mandate to feed your neighbor or feed your, cousin, right? That you don't have guardianship of. you do have a responsibility to feed your 4-month-old baby. So not doing that would be the act, technically. Threatening, so again, that's just verbal, but it's still an act. And then conspiracy, so planning, right? Even planning to, hire a hit person to kill your business partner or whatever it is. That would be your act. All right. Then you have to have the mens rea. This is a guilty mind. So this is different than motive, right? Motive is like the why you're doing it. I want to kill my business partner because I'm greedy and I want their share. I want to kill my spouse because they cheated on me. Like whatever it is, that's your motive. That's the why. This is the guilty mind. So how much thought essentially you kind of put into your actus reus over there. So we typically have 4 types, and when we look at the murder statute, we'll look at those. So we have purposeful, I purposely did it, I knowingly did it, I did something that was reckless, that made a crime happen, or I was negligent. So those are the 3 components. All right, so if you look at the ORC example, I'm going to bring it up here through the link. Remember, ORC is Ohio Revised Code. We're going to look at aggravated murder. This is our biggest one. Okay, so we have no person shall purposefully, right, with prior calculation and design, cause the death of another human being or the unlawful termination of another's pregnancy. Purposefully is again the top of that mens rea, and it's going to be for our highest count, aggravated murder, right? Let's look at murder. Here we have purposefully again, right? We're going to stick with purposefully, and we're kind of going down. So now we have voluntary manslaughter. Here we go, no person while under the influence of sudden passion or in a sudden fit of rage, right, shall knowingly cause the death. So now we're going down, and the sentences go down accordingly. We think purposeful is the worst, knowingly next worst, that kind of thing. Involuntary, here we go, no person shall blah, 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 as a proximate result of the offender's committing or attempting to commit another felony. We have reckless, that's going to be obvious, right? No person shall recklessly cause the death of another. And then we have negligent. And you can play around in here and kind of see, but these mens reas are built right into our criminal code. Okay. And then concurrence, it must be connected by time. So, when I teach the Violence in America class, one of the assignments I give when I teach it in person is to plan a bank robbery. Like, get in a group and I want you to plan out how you would rob a bank. So if my group is one person from my group of students 20 years from now robs a bank, right? They can't really be like the knowingly and the planning that they did 20 years ago in a class. It's not connected, right? So it has to be connected by time. So here again, here's the features, and this chart kind of breaks everything out for you, which is kind of cool. All right, so types of defenses to criminal charges. See, here we go. Here's my disclaimer. This is not legal advice. Get your own lawyer. All right, so we have the alibi, the justification, the excuse, and then the procedural defense. All right, everybody probably knows what an alibi is, right? Here, the defendant is saying, I didn't do it. I was at work. I didn't do it. I was shopping with my mom, whatever it is. I didn't do it because I wasn't even there. And so this can be supported by a witness or documentation, which in this day and age is typically going to be like a video, surveillance, or GPS on your phone. There you go. Now we have justification. And this is a little bit trickier because you're saying, yeah, well, I did it, but here's why. So the alibi is saying, no, it wasn't me. Justification is like, yeah, but here's why I did it. So some of the most popular ones, obviously we have self-defense. Yes, I killed that person breaking into my house. They were breaking into my house. And that would be a legitimate defense. Defense of home or property, obviously. Necessity, this is trickier. Consent, also tricky. We'll talk about that a little bit later. And stand your ground laws, which most of you have probably heard about in the news. This tells you that you don't necessarily have a duty to retreat. So before we had laws like this in Ohio, not every state has this. If someone was breaking into my home, I had every right to defend myself, my children, my dogs, my whatever, right? And I could use whatever force I felt necessary to do that with. I didn't have to retreat. I didn't have to kind of like back off and try to de-escalate the situation. I could just act because I was defending my stuff and my people. Stand your ground kind of removes that defending your own property component and makes it legal, essentially, with a lot of intricacies. So again, don't kill someone and then say my intro teacher told me I could do this. To public areas. So a place where another person has just as much of a right to be as I am, and things escalate, we're fighting, we're, road raging or whatever it is. I don't really have a duty to back off. I don't have a duty to run away. And so when George Zimmerman killed Trayvon Martin in Florida, the stand your ground laws were like all over the news all the time, even though weirdly that wasn't the defense they used, but that was where everyone thought they were going. So I linked you to an article here if you're interested in more about that. But here are some ways where you can defend your actions while admitting you committed the crime, but kind of explaining why. Here's excuses, and this is a little bit different than justification. So, yeah, I did it, but you really shouldn't hold me responsible for it. It's not, yeah, I did it, and here's why. Here's, yeah, I did it, but I'm not exactly equipped to take responsibility because I'm little, right? We just had the case of the 6-year-old, I believe, who shot their teacher. Teacher didn't die, thankfully, but they're trying to figure out what to do with the 6-year-old because it's not like we can charge a 6-year-old with murder, right? That 6-year-old, everybody saw them do it. The teacher survived and said, this is the person who shot me, so we know. But it's not like we can lock up a 6-year-old for life or execute a 6-year-old, right? That's wild. So that would be an excuse. Duress, mistake, involuntary intoxication, not like I got hammered and then, did this. Somebody drugged me and I wasn't aware. Unconsciousness or provocation. We have excuses involving mental assessments. These are very, very, very rare. These do not happen often, contrary to what like primetime television would lead you to believe. It's an interesting legal concept, and I'll let you click on this link for the overview. Not every state allows it, weirdly. We have this little like pocket of Western states that are like, no thanks. We're not even going to honor that defense. And then you have procedural defenses. This is like, I'm not even going to tell you if I did it or not because I don't have to because y'all screwed up. You screwed up in some way. You entrapped me. You've already charged me with this crime before, double jeopardy, selective prosecution. Other people are doing this and you're only choosing me to prosecute, and denial of a speedy trial. So this is saying, might have done it, might not have done it. I don't know, but you guys screwed up. And so you're going to have to start all the way over, right? Sometimes people will get a retrial because of this. Sometimes they will just be let off because of technicalities like this. Also, we have prosecutorial misconduct and police fraud can also sometimes be used as procedural defenses. If the police plant evidence or the prosecutor is, engaging in some shady things like not giving the other lawyer all of the information, disclosures, and things like that. All right, so here are 4 types of defenses. We've got alibis, excuses, justification, procedural defenses, just to wrap that up. And then that's it. So the next section of the course is policing. We're going to spend a lot of time here because to make it to the other stuff we're going to talk about, courts and corrections, you typically have to go through the police. You don't just like show up to court one day and was like, oh, I'm so sorry I was speeding. Nobody caught me, but I just thought I should like come in and tell you that I sped and see if you wanted to give me a ticket. That's not the way it works, right? The police will catch you doing something, give you a court date, then you go to court, and then the court will give you your sentence, and then you go to jail or prison. Not for speeding, mixing my metaphors here, but you get the idea. So the police are really the ones who provide entrance into the criminal justice system. So we're going to spend a lot of time talking about them. All right, that's it. I hope everyone has a wonderful day, and we will talk soon. All right, take care.